Let's go, we don't have all day. Hurry up and get down the friggin' hill. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
You brought all that stuff with you. You're not gonna be able to carry it. Your strap right there. Stop right there. Carry the freaking bag.
Do not set your bag down. What don't you understand about that? You brought it, you carry it.
Yes, no, Sergeant.
Come on, move. Let's go, safe, moving.
Let's go, quick. Tonight we are kicking off a brand new series called Basic Training. And basically what we're going to do is just what that word means. One, we're going to get right down to the basics of our faith. And two, we're going to train. And there's one thing I can tell you about training, especially basic training. It can be an awesome experience if you go into it with the right frame of mind. Now, I can remember back to when I first joined the military. I mean, I was this carefree 20-year-old or so, and I signed up for the military, and when I did, I didn't think that basic training was going to be all that difficult because, I mean, I was a great runner, I was in decent shape, but when I arrived, my world was rocked. I mean, I can remember riding in this cattle car type of trailer that pulled up to this big building which was going to be our home for the next 14 weeks. And as we began to unload, standing there right in the doorway was like this 6'5", 270-pound drill sergeant. And he was waiting right there for me and the other recruits. I mean, I was scared to death because he grabbed my duffel bag with all his big muscles. He threw that bag probably about 30 yards away, where there was another drill sergeant opening up our bags and just dumping everything onto the ground. And to top it all off, he did it with everybody else's stuff as well. So needless to say, for about the next 20 or 30 minutes, we were there digging out all of our stuff out of this huge big old pile of clothing and personal items. And to make it even worse, there were drill sergeants right there screaming at us the whole time to hurry up. Now, I tell you that story for a reason. My perception of what I was experiencing was rocked when I finally got to basic training and was faced with the reality that life was not going to be the same for my time there. I was scared. I was facing a brand new reality. Now, I know none of you have ever gone through or been to basic training before and faced that type of reality, but I'm sure you've had to face other things in your life that were really difficult, or maybe something that you weren't really used to. And maybe for some of you, you thought that high school was going to be awesome, but you soon realized that it was going to be harder than what you thought it was going to be. Maybe you thought that a relationship with that particular person was going to be the best thing in the world, but you soon realized it was not all you thought it was going to be. See, you believed one thing until you were faced with a different reality. Well, let me tell you a little story. In the days of Christopher Columbus, the common belief was that the world was flat. I mean, if you sailed to the horizon, you would fall off the earth to your death. See, Columbus was contemplating this belief one day while sitting under a tree eating this orange. And then a butterfly landed on top of this orange. And Christopher Columbus watched in wonder as this butterfly walked down on the backside of the orange without falling off. Columbus reasoned that the same force of nature, which is gravity, that kept the butterfly connected to this orange, would keep him connected and his ship connected to the earth. His perspective changed, and consequently, Columbus sailed past the horizon and discovered what we now call home. And see, it's true. The way we perceive things in our culture shapes our reality. This principle can explain why we do most of the things that we do, from our faith issues to even our own selfishness. It is perspective that drives our behavior. And that's what I want us to focus on for the next few moments, our behavior. See, as Christians, we know that our lives are supposed to change when we accept Christ. But when there's no immediate or consistent differences in our lives, we begin to wonder about the reality of our faith. See, we think that praying the prayer or making a commitment at a church service or a camp should automatically result in lasting change. But the Christian life doesn't work that way. Now, it's true, our lives have to change, but that change doesn't happen overnight. it is a process. It takes time. And one person who totally understood this was the Apostle Paul. And that is why he wrote the letter to those in Rome. He wanted them to understand that a change had to take place in their life. But not just any change. A change in their mind had to take place. And if you've ever read through the book of Romans, you know that the first 11 chapters or so lay out the foundation of God's redemptive plan and His redemptive act in Christ Jesus. And that their faith is built on Christ alone. Not a set of laws that they had to simply follow. In other words, it is the why. In understanding God's plan for sending His Son to die on the cross for you and for me. Then, starting in chapter 12, the Apostle Paul lays out what you and I like most, the practical side of things, the practical side of change. And he started off that practical side with this foundational statement. Listen to what it says. Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Did you get that? I mean, this verse is so important. And let me tell you why. In the first century, the Apostle Paul was reaching out to the Jews and the Gentile Christ followers in Rome because they were really struggling. See, Rome was the center hub of the civilized world. Everything was centered around what was going on in Rome. And the people of Rome were all about themselves. Society was spilling over with all sorts of craziness. And so what they were trying to do was still live in society, in their society and in their culture, and then add a little bit of God into their lives by following a set of rules or laws, and then thinking that that was going to be enough. But you and I know that that won't work. It didn't work then, and it doesn't work now. You can't go around doing the same things that our culture does or says, and then every once in a while throw in a little bit of God and think that our perspectives and our reality is changed, because it hasn't. We are still the same person with a different label. That's it. It's that simple. Listen, the only thing that will help you live out the request you made to God about living for Him and possessing a transformed life is to renew your mind. A renewed mind is key in the process of taking old things and putting on new things. In the context of Christian life, renewal is the process of removing lies and replacing them with the truth of Jesus Christ. Let me ask those of you who are Christ followers a question. When you gave your life over to Christ, did your lustful thoughts, your insecurities, your bad mouth or attitude change in just one day? I'm sure the answer is no. They were still there. So simply saying a prayer doesn't change your mind. What it does is it changes your identity. When you ask Christ to come into your life, you no longer belong to the world, but instead belong to Christ. And that is a very, very good thing. But your mind is still full of all that crud. And that is why the Apostle Paul says that our minds must be transformed. And the only way your mind can be transformed is by giving your thoughts over to God. Now back to basic training. When I woke up on day 2, I was in shock. I couldn't believe what was happening. I was seriously asking myself, what have I gotten myself into? I mean, I hated what was going on. Honestly, I was ready to go home. But I couldn't let the negative side of what I was experiencing keep me from my purpose in being there. So change was only going to happen when I changed my mind on what was going on and why I was there. And each day that went by, my perspective, my reality, my mind was changing. I was being transformed into a soldier who would defend this nation to the death. And then over the next few days and weeks, I felt a change taking place. I no longer saw what I was doing as stupid. I saw that it was building me up. It was changing the way I thought. It was changing who I was and who I was becoming. And the same is true regarding your relationship with Christ. But if you don't change the way you think, it will all be for nothing. You will simply have a label. And I know that you don't want that. Instead, I know you want to live your life for God. And I know you want to be different and experience that all that God has to offer for you. And that is why you must make God the center of your life and the center of your thoughts. Because when you do, you will see as God sees, and you will do as God says.